and supplementary angles. Okay, what do you guys remember? Like, does anyone remember anything about either of these words, what complementary and supplementary mean? Does anyone have any thoughts? Let's just start with the word complementary. Does anyone know, like, I know you guys know what a compliment is, right? Like, you pay someone a compliment, right? Like, oh, I like your shoes, or oh, your hair looks pretty, right? But in math, complementary has like a different kind of meaning. Zoe, do you know anything about that?
When two angles are complementary, their sums when added together 90 degrees are 90 degrees. So like 0.5.
Okay, good. So that's perfect. Okay, so complementary describes two angles whose sum is equal to 90 degrees. Okay? So it's two angles that add up to 90 degrees. If I take the measure of one, the measure of the other, and I add them together, it's 90 degrees. Okay, that's what a complementary angle is. Okay, now let me draw like a couple of examples for you guys, okay? So you could maybe have something like this, where you have like an angle. Let's say this angle, its measure is 20 degrees, and then you have like another angle. And let's say this one, the measure is 70. Okay? How much do these two angles add up to together? 90, right? Okay. Now, you could also have something maybe that looks like this. Bless you. Okay, where they're actually like touching each other. What is it? We learned that word yesterday. What does it mean when you have two angles touching each other, sharing a common vertex, common side? What is that? Starts with the letter A. Adjacent. Okay. So you could have two adjacent angles that are actually touching each other, and so together these actually form a right angle, right? Like I could actually draw a right angle symbol here because together they're 90 degrees, right? Does that make sense? But you could also have complementary angles that are adjacent. Okay, so these angles, they may or may not be adjacent. Okay? So they could be touching, they could not be touching. It doesn't matter if they're touching or not touching. As long as their measures add up to 90, they are considered to be complementary. Okay? All right. So if two angles whose sum is equal to 90 degrees are considered complementary, what do you guys think supplementary means?
It doesn't add up to 90.
Okay. So Aries says it doesn't add up to 90. Giselle said she thinks it adds up to 180. Okay? Well, 180 is not 90, so you're both right. Okay? Because supplementary describes angles whose sum is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, so Aries, you're right, they do not add up to 90, but more specifically, they must add up to 180, okay? Because like if I have two angles and they add up to 120, are those considered supplementary, even though they're not 90? No, they're not, right? They have to be 180 to be supplementary, okay? All right, so same thing here. These angles may or may not be adjacent. They may or may not be touching. It is. Okay, so what's a linear pair? Okay, well when I have these supplementary angles, okay, I could have supplementary angles where they're non-adjacent. So maybe I have something like this where let's just say this one is like 85 degrees. And then I have another angle. And this one's like, that one would have to be 95 degrees, right? And like these two, they add up to 180, right? Okay, but they're not adjacent. Okay, but they're still considered supplementary. Okay, or you could have supplementary angles that are adjacent where they're touching. So they look kind of like maybe more something like this. Okay, where maybe this one's like 60 and then this one over here is 120, right? Now, these kind, where they're touching, where they're adjacent, they have a special name. Okay, so two angles that are supplementary, that are adjacent, share a common side and a common vertex. The vertex is right here, right? Okay, these are called a linear pair. Why do you think they're called a linear pair? What small word is in this big word linear? Line. What do they make together? A straight line, right? They actually end up making a straight angle if I were to measure this angle all the way across, right? Exactly 180. Okay, so a linear pair is two angles, okay, that are supplementary, and adjacent. Okay, which means they've got to be touching, sharing that common side. Okay, so these are supplementary, these are supplementary, only one of them is a linear pair. This one's a linear pair. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So today what we're going to be doing in our notes is we're going to practice some problems that are similar to stuff that you're going to see on your homework tonight. Okay? And so we're going to just be working out these problems together. Okay? So here it says find the complement or supplement of each angle. So if I want to find the complement of this angle, that means I want to find the other angle that goes with this one and makes them complementary. Okay? So in order to make two angles complementary, what did we say they have to add up to? 90, right? So what angle is going to add with 85 to make it equal 90? 5, right? If I wasn't sure how to do that, I could even like write an equation, right? Like x plus 85 has to equal 90 degrees. And then I could solve that by subtracting, right? But most of us can do that in our head. So what's the measure of the complement? 5 degrees, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so I want you to apply what we did on number 1, but I want you to try to do number 2, and notice it's not asking you for the complement. What is it asking you for? Supplement. So I want you to discuss in your groups what you would do to solve that one, okay? I want to hear you talking to your neighbor right now. Okay, so Alvin, what did your group decide to do? Okay, good. So you subtracted 37 by 180. Was there any other groups that maybe used a different strategy? Like, did any groups set up an equation? Did anyone write down an equation on their page? What equation did you write down, Aries?
X plus 37.
Yeah. Now, both of these strategies work, whether you use subtracting or whether you use the equation, because how do I solve this equation anyways? Subtract 37 from both sides, right? Okay, so what did you guys get for your final answer on this one? 143. How many people got 143 for their answer? Okay, good job. Okay, let's go on to the next problem, okay? So I know it's hard to see here, but there's actually supposed to be right here a little right angle symbol. Can you guys draw that in right there? Okay. Now, some of the problems on your homework, you're going to have to look at a diagram and look at the information drawn in the diagram and then use it to help you solve, okay? So, if there's a right angle symbol here, how much does that mean that this angle, I'm going to outline it for you guys, that this whole angle is equal to 90 degrees. Now, it's asking us to find the value of B, so this one and this one must be complementary, right? So I could set up either an equation or I could just subtract, okay? But either way, I'm going to get the value of B knowing that those two angles are complementary, right? So what is the value of B here? 68. Okay. So B equals 68. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, what I'd like you guys to do is take a look at problem 4 and discuss with your neighbors how you think you're going to solve problem 4. Okay? All right. So we should have got 68 for this one. Okay, let's move on to number 5. Okay? So, on number 5, 6, 7, 8, instead of having a drawing, there's actually just words and symbols and numbers and letters, right? So you're going to have to read through all this information and think about what it's asking you, okay, and use some of the key terms you see in here. So first of all, what key word do you see that's in this one?
Complementary.
Yeah, okay. And it's telling you you have two angles, angle 1 and angle 2. Now, did it give you the measure of one of those angles?
Yeah.
Which one did it give you?
Angle 2.
Angle 2, okay? So now, if we know angle 2 and we know they're complementary, is it easy for us to find angle 1? Yeah, how do we do that? Subtract, right? Or set up an equation, right? Either way, okay? So let's go ahead together and we're going to find the measure of angle 1. Okay, so I know that angle 1 plus angle 2 makes 90 degrees because they're complementary. Then I'm going to solve this equation. So what do I get for angle 1? 41. Okay, so the measure of angle 1 equals 41 degrees. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So what I'd like for you guys to do right now is we're going to work through these one at a time. Okay, so I only want you to do problem number 6. Then we're going to talk about it. Then I'm going to have you guys do 7. Then we're going to talk about it. And then 8. So don't work ahead. Just do the one I'm asking you to do and pause and wait. Okay? So can you guys in your groups take a look at number 6 together and discuss how you would solve that and what you would get for your answer? Okay. So let's take a look at number 6. Jace, what did you set up for number 6? Okay, very good. X plus 60 equals 90. And remember, you could have just subtracted as well, okay? But either way is fine. We still get the same answer. So what did you guys get? 30, okay? Now, what was it asking you to find here? Okay, so we're going to write for our final answer the measure of angle NMP equals 30 degrees, okay? All right, how many of you got that one correct? Raise your hand. Okay, good. Okay. Let's have you guys do number 7 right now. So everyone take a look at number 7, please. Work in your groups to solve that one. So we should have got 96 degrees for number 7. Okay, now in your groups, let's go ahead and try number 8. Okay, so work together, please, to try that one. Okay, so number 8, we should have got 68 degrees. Okay, let's look at some of these problems on the bottom. Okay, all you're given is a diagram. Okay, and you're going to have to solve. Okay, there's a few things that I want us to fill in on some of these before we start them. First of all, there's an X right here. Okay. Second of all, there's a little right angle symbol right here on this one. So I want you guys to fill that in. Third, this one is exactly the same as this one. So in order to make it a different problem, I'm going to change this whole angle measure to be 2x plus 10. Okay, this whole angle here, that little tiny one is going to be 2x plus 10. Okay? And I think you guys can read this one, right? All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to use the information in the picture to help us solve the problem, okay? So let's look at this first picture. Look at all these angles, okay? What kind of angle are they creating here? Well, we wouldn't exactly call this a linear pair because a pair implies two angles, right? A pair is like me and you, a pair, right? But we could say that all together, are these making a straight angle? Is this forming a straight angle right here? Yeah. So what do all of these have to add up to together? 180, right? Okay, because we see this nice straight line right here, okay? So since all of these are adding up to 180, let's set up an equation to help me solve this. So I'm going to add 45 plus x plus 35 plus 70. It's a lot of numbers. Now, what did they all add up to? We said, because they made a straight angle, 180, okay? So now let's go ahead and solve that. So let's start out by combining the terms that we have on the same side that are all like the same kind of terms. Okay, so 70 plus 45 plus 35. What do we get for that? 150, right? Is that what you guys said, 150? Okay. All right, so next, how am I going to continue solving that? Yeah, we're going to subtract 150 from both sides, right? Okay, and so what do we get for the value of x? 30. Okay, so there's our answer on that one. Okay, now, let's take a look at number 10. On number 10, do you have another straight angle here? No.
Yes. Wait, yes, you do.
I mean, you do. You have this whole thing as a straight angle, right? So if I were to look at all three of these angles, do I know how big this one is?
Yes.
It could be 90, okay? So one way to solve this would be to say, oh, well, this one's 90, so I could add that plus that plus that and make them all 180, right? Because they make a straight line. Is there a faster, though, shorter, more efficient way? If this is a right angle here, you guys told me this was a right angle here, but this is a right angle here, and what else is over here? 90. Do you guys see that this right angle, what do I know about these two angles? What's that called? Complementary, right? Okay, so what can I do with these two? Make an equation and set them equal to how much? 90, okay? Either way would work. Like that first way you guys were telling me where we use the straight angle, that plus that makes 180. That would work. But I think it's less work to do these two equal 90. Does that make sense? And just see there that those are complementary. Okay, so let's do that. X plus 8 plus 2x plus 1 equals 90. Okay, go ahead and give that a try solving that right now in your groups. See if you guys can come up with the answer. Alright, so to solve this one, did you guys start out hopefully by combining some of your like terms?
Yeah.
What was x plus 2x?
3x.
Okay, and then we also had 8 plus 1, right? What was 8 plus 1?
9.
Okay. Now, what do we want to do to both sides? Subtract 9. Okay, what was 90? Take away 9.
81.
Okay. And then what did you guys get last when you divided there? 27. Okay. All right. And all we were doing was solving for x there, so we're done. Now, let's say, for example, in this problem, this angle was labeled like ABC, and it said find the measure of angle ABC. What would you have to do with this value of x if it wanted you to find the measure of angle ABC? What would you have to do here?
27 plus 8.
Yeah, 27 plus 8, and then we could find that measure. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. I want you guys to discuss this one in your groups and give it a try solving for x, okay?